Hi, welcome back to Two-Saw Workshop. Today we're going to make a coffee table, which I'm sure if you have people over will end up being a conversation piece, and it'll let you show off some nice woodworking joints. I used a piece of salvage glass. Somebody was going to throw it away, so I grabbed it. And I used some 10-quarter oak. The sawmill, anytime you buy wood from them, they sell it by the 1/4 inch. So 10-quarter ends up being about 2.5 inches thick. They actually gave a little extra, so it's a little thicker than 2.5. But I'll plane that, join that, plane that, and then cut that up for the leg sections of the wood. It's going to be held together with through mortises, and I'll pin those with a contrasting wood. And I had some Wenge wood, which left over from another project, so it'll contrast nicely with the oak. And then I'm going to dovetail the cross stretchers, and that'll hold the two leg sections together. But the dimensions are going to be based on the glass that I have, so you can size it to whatever you like. I am going to leave a link to drawings in Google SketchUp Warehouse, so there'll be a link in the comments section below. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. I'm really trying to build the channel, so I would appreciate your help. And if you feel free to leave a comment, hit like, and as always, thanks for watching. All right, so I have all my wood milled up. Going to be able to get my 4 17-inch long pieces out of here, my 4 16-inch pieces out of here, and then these are the two 24-inch, which goes across the two legs to span them. So I'll take them over to the table saw, square off the ends. The defect that I filled in, it looks fine. It may actually get hidden by one of the joints, but it's much easier to fill it in now than it is to kind of cuss after the fact. So we'll see how that works out. But take it over the table saw and then go from there. All right. Just going to take a piece of scrap and use it as a backer, so that way I get a little less tear out. So still have a little bit, but Alright, now I have all the pieces cut to length, sized appropriately. Now comes the layout, which is tedious, but you know, if you don't do it, then it's very easy to make a mistake. So I'll fast forward through the layout section, but I'll probably show it just to show what I do, at least for one side. Alright, so I'm going to start using the dedicated mortiser. One thing about changing the bits is I used to use a coin, but I don't have a coin in my pocket very frequently anymore. But to get the bit extended out just far enough, I put like a drill bit or something in there, slide that up so the bit's even with the base of the mortising bit, and then tighten the drill bit portion down. And here we go. So that's tight. And then remove the drill bit and slide the chisel portion of it up, so that way the drill bit is extending just a hair beyond there. And then I'll square it up to the fence. But having that extension out, just put a glove on your left hand when you're doing it so you're not getting poked by the drill bit. Alright, so after my arm's kind of sore, clean these off, then I'll just clean them up with a chisel, and then I'll fit the tenon to them. So over at the table saw, I've marked out where my tenon is supposed to be, so I have to remove all this material here. So what I'll do is I'll make the shoulder cut on all the sides, on all the pieces, and I'll come back with the tenoning jig to take away the bulk of this material. I've switched to the tenoning jig, and I'll have to take off the shoulder cuts. First one I'm going to be kind of careful with and see if that my measurements and everything are right. But the blade's high enough that it'll just come into the little shoulder cut there. So. that slides in there fairly nicely. So that's a good thing. If you notice, I did have a little burn because I was going through so much wood, but I prefer to do that, and then I'll clean my blade after I go through all these, rather than having a little stepped, cut. So I'll do it all at once, even though it's at the maximum ability for the blade. All right, so now we have shoulder cut, we have the tenons cut, and I'm going to pare these down so they fit nicely into the mortises. But you can see they just barely fit, so they just need a little fine tuning. I'm going to take these over to the router table and round over the edges first, so that way that's done. And then I'll have to clean up the shoulders here with a chisel as well. Alright, so when I go to round over, you can see the grain is running this way. So if I run it through, I'm going to get very little tear out. But when I go to run this edge, there's always the potential of ripping this out. So what I'll do is I'll take a block plane and just ease over the edge just a little bit. Oh, that slid together very easily and nicely. So I don't have to pare anything down on the inside there. That'll fit nicely, nice and flush. Alright, so now I have all the pieces fitted together, and what I'm going to do is clamp them together and then take them over to the mortiser. And I'm going to make the square holes for the pegs to go through. And I'm going to use some Wenge for a little contrast for that. Should look pretty good. We'll see. Alright, so I have a little support and got it clamped together, and I marked where I want each of them, and I adjusted the fence to be the right distance, and then I'll just be able to repeat the mortises while I'm doing that. I did make it so it doesn't extend the whole way through. It'll be just like a 1/4 inch shy, so that way it'll go through the wood, through the tenon, and then into the opposing wood, but it won't break through and tear out the other side. Alright, so now I'm going to peg those holes. Like I said, I'm using some Wenge. I cut it down to 1/2 inch so it'll just fit in there. Want it to be snug, but not I don't want it to break when it goes in. So what I'll do first is I'll just kind of ease the edges so that way when it goes in it doesn't catch on anything. And I made a mark that's about say 1/4 inch shy. It'll go down, and once I see that mark hitting there, that's when I'll apply just a little bit of glue. Alright, the next thing I'm actually going to do is make that shoulder cut. I probably should have done this when I had the piece separate, but I made a little spacer to take up the space for those tenons so I can write it right against the fence. Alright, so I laid out all of the dovetails on all the edges. And what I'll do is I'll make a shoulder cut first, and then I'll probably put it in the tenoning jig to take away the majority of the material at about 10 degrees. And then I'll worry about rounding it over. And then I think I'm going to put a peg in there It's probably a little bit smaller, probably a 1/4 inch rather than the one I put 1/2 inch that I put in the other one. So I have the stretcher portions fit into the legs, and what I'll have to do is cut away half of that dovetail so it sits all the way down into the leg portion, and I'll do that with the tenoning jig over at the table saw. So we'll take those over there. All right, now I promised very little glue, but I am going to use some glue on these. I think it'll hold it in place, and then I will pin them, but I'm going to glue them with, put a little glue on there to hold it together to start with. I'll let that sit for just a little bit, and then I will go ahead and put those pins in.